Hello, denizens of Dove Weather. We've got a brand spanking new episode for you, and we're talking about a manga. What manga, you ask? Well, it is none other than My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, and we have an amazing guest.
Yes, yes, yes. And please give us a like, a follow, a share. And Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, super excited to be here. It's so nice to finally meet you guys.
Enjoy the show.
There's this one book called Unwind that I read in middle school, which is like about a dystopian universe where it's like an anti-abortion type book. And it's pretty cool. It's wild. And I would like to see it because it's about a dystopian future where like kids can basically like if they want blue eyes, they can get surgery to get blue eyes, but the blue eyes will be coming from someone's family who like they kind of abandoned their kid into like this orphanage so they can use their body parts to give to like richer kids who want those different like aspects of their body. I read it in 7th grade and that radicalized me a lot. So I'm like, let me go into that world and like beat up everybody's parents and be like, children, come here.
Just light reading at 7th grade, just eugenics at 7th grade?
12-year-olds, yeah.
I like that answer of I would go inside a book and just beat everyone up, like it make the world better.
Yeah, because I can't do that in Hunger Games. They'll eat me. Like,
But what you can do is come into Dove Weather. Welcome, listeners. I am your Dove, AP.
And I am your number 2 Dove, Marcy.
And today we are joined by a special figure, a figure that wants to beat you up and can beat you up. A figure that is known throughout the realm, the TikTok and Instagram realm. Today we are joined by Karen. She is a Mexican-American baddie with a big following on TikTok and Instagram. You can find her telling the truth, the capital T truth, on both platforms. She is a Chicago daughter with a variety of interests. She has the knives out for all forms of patriarchal white supremacy perverts. If you're some of that, stay away. She's asking you to love and support those who are struggling with mental illness, with mental health. Karen is an all-round champion of the marginalized. Karen, welcome to Dove Weather.
hello. Thank you for having me, guys. I'm excited.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah.
Today, we are starting something special, aren't we, Marcy?
Yeah, we're having a very special day because we're talking about a manga, and not just any manga, a manga that deals with both lesbianism and loneliness. My lesbian experience with loneliness.
Yes, which was written by Najara Gabi, and it's a big one. It's a big one. It's also a big one because it's the first piece of media we are covering in our what, Marcy?
Our Queerdos miniseries.
And listeners, as you know, we are doing a lot of different miniseries. So you might ask yourself, Queerdos? Queerdo miniseries? What could that possibly mean? I'll tell you. There are massive structural forces, capitalism, Christian nationalism, white supremacy, that are absorbing queerness into itself so it commodify gayness. And the weirdness in our communities being stripped away. Historically, queer people have been pushed to the margins and forced to assimilate. Today, it's undeniable. Art queer people create follows us to show off our queerness without the constraints society puts on us. Queer art breaks boundaries. In our modern age, we must lean into the weirdos making art. In this miniseries, we are celebrating queer weirdos. We are Queerdos. Let's talk about lesbians.
Let's do it, especially as I am the token lesbian on this podcast.
We love our lesbians. Just want to let the lesbians know. I love lesbians.
Yeah, I mean, we just had Lesbian Visibility Week, so,
Yeah. Which honestly should be a whole year. Let's have a lesbian visibility year.
Lesbian Visibility Lifetime.
That's what I'm saying. There's no need to put back the lesbians back in the top shelf. We could just keep them right here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're getting all these different, like, trans visibility, trans day of, et cetera, et cetera. Like, who decides when all these things are? And it's like, is there, at a certain point, I lose track, and I don't find out until, like, cis and straight people are posting about them online.
Karen, what's your relationship with lesbians? I know you say you love lesbians, but like,
I love them. They don't love me all the time. I am a bisexual woman, and I am so scared to tell that to lesbians because I'm like, they're gonna leave me. They're not gonna talk to me anymore. And it does happen sometimes, but I can pull a pretty one every once in a while, and I'm like,
oh,
just like I did that.
Amazing. I feel like the cool lesbians know that we got to be friendly with bisexuals. I mean, I'm dating a bisexual, so
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
I have a constellation of lesbians around me. I love lesbians. Not in a like, oh, I'm the little gay boy to many lesbians types of way, which I am. But in the way that I'm like, I just love someone who hates men. And yeah, not all lesbian hate men, but honestly, like, I was telling this to Marcy. I love an evil woman. And I think that's just because there's like something genetic that happens with queer men that just, at a certain point, they just fall in love with evil women.
Yeah, I do feel like there's definitely been a long history of queer men loving female villains, and you can see that like all over the history of like TV and movies. And yeah, I mean, I think part of it is that because society demonizes women and lesbians don't center men, and of course, like taking a female character and making it so that she doesn't center men and she does whatever she wants, she's often going to be villainized. And then it's like, that's exactly what queer people are going to champion.
I had a thought in my head and I forgot it, and it was so relevant to this. I'm so mad. It'll come back.
It's probably
Well, your dog is really cool.
Thanks. She is so, what's the word, clingy right now. She's just a little bit over a year old.
Oh,
And I love her, but sometimes I'm like, please leave me alone. I love you. But I wake up to her like sitting on my chest because she's a Yorkie. I'm like, please.
Is she queer?
Yeah. No, she is not. But my older dog is. And I know this because she doesn't like other boy dogs. And she's a top. So she finds a littler dog. She is all up in her butt and will not stop following her. So I'm like, I got a little lesbian and then I got a little straight one. Or she's asexual. We haven't figured that out yet. I haven't seen her too horny around other dogs, but stuffed animals are kind of her thing right now.
You know who is too horny? The main character of this manga. What which, I mean, it's an autobiographical manga, so there's a little bit of mix in between fiction and reality, but Kabi in this manga, she literally from page 1 is like, yo, I'm here in a bed with a woman and we're about to get dirty with it.
yeah. I mean, it really drops you right into she's going to have sex for the first time. She's like never kissed anyone before. And I think part of it is like they got to hook you. And then it's like after that, they flash back and give you all the context for the character. And I mean, the thing is that like it's a very like horny start to it, but then soon you find out like, oh, she's like very scared of sex.
I felt like I wasn't walking in on someone, and I was like, I am so sorry to interrupt. Like, you guys keep doing. So I was like, kind of scrolling through it, and then it came out like, oh, this was something she like a flash forward, I guess. And I was like, oh, I wasn't walking in on everything. She's telling a story. Like, fuck. But yeah, it was very. You're there.
It's very vivid. It is very vivid. This manga just starts at 100% because like she is starting at 100%. She Kabi is a virgin. She's never kissed anyone, never dated anyone, and probably at prom didn't get nasty with it. I mean, it's Japan. I don't know if they have prom in Japan, but I assume they didn't. She's very forward with the fact that she goes from 0 to 100, because and I like how the narrative in this manga kind of it's structured in such a way that it reinforces that it is constantly putting us, the reader, in this form where we have to like kind of like walk with the like awkwardness that she is feeling.
Yeah, I feel like it's often kind of taking her thoughts and then comparing them to like what's actually happening and kind of contrasting those, because she's a character who at the beginning doesn't really act. She thinks a lot, and you kind of get that in the way that there's like a lot of narration in the comic book. And at first I was a little bit turned off by this. I was like, it's doing a little bit too much telling and not enough showing. But I think over time, I grew more used to it as like, oh, this is just like how she is. And over time, she's going to kind of grow more into herself. And I think it's kind of like how they say a lot of movies, they teach you how to watch the movie. I feel like it was kind of similar with this, where it taught you like how to read it as you did so.
I feel personally as like I feel like I don't really like to call myself a content creator as much as it's like a storyteller. And like when you're being taught to tell a story, you do have to have a hook. But the hook is usually something that makes the reader like, why should I want to read this? And this one was more like, here is something that's like surprising and you don't know. So for me, it was very like, all right, this isn't the flow, like the structure isn't the way I was taught. So I feel like I very much did have to learn her like writer style, her form of storytelling. But also I'm not a comic book reader. So that was also a big transition for me to be like, oh, this isn't a book where they are narrating the whole thing and their thoughts. Like you have to look at the little bubbles and everything, because everything in the comic that's there and written and drawn is very important. It's not like stupid detailed in a little like in a book or something. Not that they're stupid, but there's sometimes like too much details.
Did the narrative structure here really help provide a sense of vulnerability?
I think it emphasized her awkwardness. Like it was a very awkward writing, and it kind of showed that it shows at the end that this is something she's kind of new to and starting to work on. So I think I liked that it really reflected what she was feeling internally as she was writing it, because it was a little bit awkward, it was a little bit weird, but then she found her pace, and that's when I kind of was like reading a lot more, and I was like, oh, okay, like now the story is making more sense. She's going into like her family, her personal struggles, and I was like, okay, yeah, I like this is vulnerable now.
Yeah, I agree. I think like as I read it, I kind of I mean, it's like a story where like her putting the story on the internet and that getting a lot of people to connect to it is like becomes part of the narrative, which is interesting. And I think like I was able to connect with her more. I think at the beginning, a lot of it is like pretty depressing, of like all the issues that she's going through. All the self harm, all the eating disorders, which like I'm glad that she shared, but I think at the same time at the beginning it can feel like a little bit like trauma dumping. But I think that as like the story goes on, you kind of grow more connected to her, and then like the vulnerability feels like it's connecting even more when once you have like more of the context.
Yeah, I kind of am on the other end where I really liked that she talked about the dark and heavy stuff, because I was like, yeah, everyone's like, don't talk about it. It's too depressing. It's too blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, shut up. We're going to talk about it. Like, it is scary. It is traumatizing, but that's real life. And I was like, okay, no, I also like my depression was really bad post-college, not post-high school. So I was like, I get that. Getting out of bed and doing anything you like made me want to do terrible things. And also the eating disorder, the self-harm. I was like, oh, scrolling, same. And I just felt so identified. Even though I'm not a lesbian, but I found that I could identify with someone who was. And it kind of just made me feel a little closer to her and just humanized her a lot more.
The lesbian experience is the human experience.
It is.
At the end of the day, we're all lesbians.
It's very true.
At heart, we're all lesbians. True. You know,
I feel like you've been trying to identify as a lesbian for a long time, so I mean, I'm not surprised by this.
Marcy's been trying to trans me for like a couple of years now. So I really do like the vulnerability a lot. I've read a bunch of reviews and comments online about this, and people were like, "Oh yeah, this is very dark, very heavy," and I'm like, "Are you reading the same thing as I am?" Because like there is a juxtaposition between the like self-harm and eating disorder, but the comic is drawn so cute. It is just such a cutely drawn comic book that kind of scratches an itch within me where it's like I like that disparity.
Yeah, I think the cuteness of the comic helps draw you into it, and I think it helps make it not as heavy that you're like immediately learning all these things about her, and I think that it kind of connects to like the weirdness in the Queerdos, and it kind of makes me think that like what even is weird, like she's basically sharing these things that a lot of people are going through, which would seem weird to like some people, but in reality, it's like the only reason this is weird is because that society has like stigmatized talking about these things.
Yeah, I feel like I personally identify as like, and this is something like me and my therapist have talked about, but like in a funny, goofy way. I'm very dark and twisted. So I love hearing these dark stories. Tell me all the details. And the cutesy part, I was just kind of like, oh, like my background on my computer is like purple, pink clouds. Or like a sky purple pink with little clouds. So I was like, oh, this is like my computer aesthetic. She's talking about all the like just girly, scary things. I was like in the dark reading. I don't know. I felt everything about the aesthetic and like the dark beginning stuff. I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is different. Especially because I do see some of this stuff in comics like or animes, but it's always the male point of view or, it's always. And I'm like, oh, okay, a girl talking about this. She knows it gets deep. She knows. And then the mommy issues, I was like, that is peak womanhood.
One thing that we do a lot on this show is vacillate in between a couple of like topics, vampirism being one of them, the other being be gay, do crime, and the third one that we've kind of really started is girl so confusing. And this comic is girl so confusing, the manga.
Yeah, I guess it's like Brat before Charlie did Brat.
I kind of don't like when narratives hide the difficulty of like humanity and being a human being. And because this, just like it says on the tin, is about loneliness, the loneliness is visible. It's legible. It is designed in this way where the loneliness is real. So many of the characters in the background are silhouettes at best. The only real like figure with throughout this manga is Kabi, and Kabi is drawn in such a way where there's no details. It's almost as if she is incapable of seeing the details of herself in the way that others can see it within herself. But of course, as the comic book goes on, we know that it's a self-esteem issue. It's a personal issue. Something within her is not letting her be as vivid as she can be and as the world around her is.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that's like a key memory from this is that she doesn't even really see herself as like a manga artist until like multiple people are like, "You should draw manga." And there's like the one guy who gives her the thumbs up, and she like thinks about that like all the time. Um, and yeah, I feel a little bit sad for her that like even at the end of the book, even after she's had success, she's like, "Yeah, I still don't really have any friends." Like she has like a lot of people online are giving her kudos for like what she made, and she's like, "This is good enough for now. This is the nectar." And I kind of want to be like, yes, it feels good, but also real life friendship is really important too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I feel like me personally, it's like loneliness is something I very much struggled with. I am like diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and one of the symptoms is like chronic loneliness. So seeing that, I was just like, okay, I'm not the only weirdo that has a hard time not only making friends, but keeping friends just because of like my life experiences are so dark. And I also like just came out of a depression. So it's like, how do we make friends? How do I be a friend? How do I know what a friend is? So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I know that feeling of like finding success online, but then your real life is not what it seems online.
I'm also someone who has seen a lot of like loneliness within them, which is very like oxymoronic because I'm always someone who has a very big social circle as well. So I mean, like, I, I reading this, I also felt a lot of like personal connection to the loneliness that is being provided here. I've never seen like a workplace as a place to like make friends or like develop a family structure how Kabi did. But there are moments in my life where I have definitely been like, all I want is a hug. I'm, I'm a 26-year-old man, but all I want is a hug.
Yeah, I think the commenter definitely does a good job of like taking those raw emotions and putting them on the page, and also like exploring kind of like where that came from, which like of course comes into play with like the Freudian stuff, the like one of the most one of the images that will definitely stick with me is like when she's like hugging her mom, and her mom's like, "Stop hugging me," and then like her mom is sitting down, and like she's like between her mom and the chair.
That is so funny.
Some of those images will not leave my brain of her explaining her relationship with her mom. Like there was a part where she's like an adult being breastfed by her mom, and I was like, oh, I understand that the imagery makes it make sense, but I don't know if I needed to be that explicit. But also, like, it's her story.
I sincerely believe that like that kind of imagery and that kind of like narrative is what makes this writer a little bit of a weirdo. Like
But hey, she drew what most people are afraid to talk about, I guess.
one
I feel like
hundred
there's a lot of
percent.
people with those type of like relationships with a parent.
We say Freudian, but I don't really think it's Freudian. I think it's misplaced, like sexual frustration. Of course, I don't think Kabi wants to be in a relationship, incestual relationship with her mother, but I think she's just using the image of her mother as a example of what she is lacking relationship wise. As she said, she wants an older woman that would love her, but she only has access to her mother as an image. And I gotta say, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird.
I feel like as a woman who has dated men and done years of therapy, this is something that is very common amongst girls, where a lot of times they do model who they date subconsciously around their dad. So I was like, this is really interesting hearing it from like the woman perspective, a sapphic perspective, because we don't talk about that, the mommy issues and your sexuality. Like we always look at the hetero relationship, at the mom son relationship, the dad daughter relationship. We don't talk about the dad and son. We don't talk about moms and daughters.
Yeah, definitely.
No, and I mentioned the weird stuff, and I have also met the type of person that's like trying to weirdly like bring their like parental like figure into their like relationship struggles. And I'm gonna be brave here, and I'm gonna say I am not
Hot
one of
take?
them. Like knowing my parents and knowing my history, my romantic history, there is little overlap. I guess I've only ever dated humans, and my parents are humans.
Oh no. I have unfortunately been that person. And for 10 years of my life, I dated two people, each one very similar to my father in different ways. Um, Took years of therapy to unlearn that. So it's definitely one of those things where it's like, if it hasn't gotten to you, you are so lucky. But if it has, it's like, we got some, we got some talking out and understanding our past to do.
Mm, mm.
Do you see a pattern here? And I was like, no. She was like, we need to talk about this.
Okay,
So it's like sometimes, go for it.
Karen, but let me ask you: do you feel weird because of that?
No, it's a trauma response.
So like I don't feel any which way about like my romantic history not really having any like connection to like the people close to me or reflective of the people close to me.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I do see is in that is that like Kabi is vulnerable with her like strange thoughts, the thoughts that would like send like a mainstream American, a white, like let's just say a white cishet man into a coma. Like I don't think they would. You take that type of guy, you take a Kyle, and you could give him 1,000 years and he could never express something like this by themselves.
Very true.
And so like I like this as a piece of media for the Queerdos miniseries because of that, exactly because of that. And you coming in to being like, it's normal. I'm just like, yeah, it's normal for us. It's normal for us, the fairies.
Yeah, no, me dating men. Oh God, I say things and they're like, "Excuse me, what?" And I'm like, "Okay, I know your brain cannot process this. You straight hetero man," and they always disappoint. But I accident, as most bi women do, we do go back sometimes. So it's a lot of re-explaining to people of like how weird you are. That's why I date queer and Latino men, queer women too. I don't know. I love me a fruity person. I don't care what you are. Like,
Yeah, get your money up. That is also me. I could never see myself with a straight person, honestly. Even though that I am like woman attracted as well, I just don't ever see myself with a heterosexual woman. I mean, embarrassing.
valid.
Yeah, even before I came out as trans, the only people I ever kissed were bisexual. So I feel like, that even straight women for me wouldn't do it for me.
And so like but yeah, I like how this would send a Kyle into a coma because it's a different culture. It's about this manga was released about 10 years ago. But even so, like it explores something that is not explored very often. You mentioned it being sapphic, and I like that. And so I want to talk a little bit more about the sapphic side of things, and especially about the sex work side of things as well. And so, like here in the whether we're pro sex work, of course. I mean, all sex work is work, and we're pro work here. And I want to talk about the sex worker that like is not named. She's not given a name, which is a negative. Kabi, that's a negative. Give your woman character a name.
Oh no, it didn't pass the. No, it did not. Okay, no about that. No Bechdel test here because there wasn't another woman.
Yeah, yeah. No Bechdel test because Alison Bechdel is a legendary lesbian comic book writer, and we love her for that. Let's talk. I want to talk. about this sex worker that doesn't have a name, but we will give her a name. We'll just call her Rose from now on. Marcy, what did you think of Rose?
Yeah, I think I really liked her character, and I think that I loved the way that she was so kind to the protagonist, and the way that I kind of like the way that like you got to see the inner thoughts of the protagonist and how like she was struggling a lot with what was happening, and you could tell that like she was kind of having a trauma response to what was happening, and she was like, "Oh, I just need this to be good." And the sex worker like was doing everything she could in order to like make it comfortable for the protagonist, but there was still kind of this disconnect. The protagonist really went inside her own head and like, she was like, why are my responses the only things that aren't working? Does that mean that it's bad? But I liked that even though it was obvious that like she wasn't having the experience that she wanted, that there was still this like relationship that was formed where uh you could really just see like the kindness that was happening.
It's very sweet, right?
Hmm.
I have mixed feelings about it, mostly because I did have a friend who was a sex worker. So I felt like this was very much romanticizing sex work. And this friend has woken up once with like black eyes. And I was like, I don't want people to read this and think that sex work is something that can be very cute and loving and supportive. And I feel like it, maybe because she didn't know about this and it's something you don't realize until maybe you're like years after, the power imbalance between your sex worker and whoever's paying. And I'm curious, like, did the sex worker feel like she had to mother like a concerned client and stuff like that? But at the same time, I love that it showed that there is no one way to have sex and there is no rule on how you're supposed to do it. And I think that's also very cool because it shows people that like, you don't have to do what happens in porn. That is not it. You can do whatever you're comfortable with. Both parties can be very comfortable and consent. So I think, good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was definitely a bit like it wasn't a three-dimensional character, and I think you like definitely you could tell that like it wasn't from the perspective of a sex worker or someone who like really knew sex workers. So yeah, I definitely agree with
Exactly.
you there.
There's also like a cultural difference here. Like in Japan, sex work is not exactly legal, but it exists in a gray market. It exists in such a way where there's loopholes around having or paying for sex. And like this is an escort service specifically. There's escort services here in the United States as well, which aren't exactly like you pay for sex. But in Japan, from what I understand, you can just do that. And this is what we see in the manga here. I like Rose as a sex worker because she is very kind. She is willing to walk with Kabi as she is being very nervous here. And I myself know a lot of sex workers. I mean, I know sex workers that are practitioners currently, and I have heard some stories as well, and I just like that. Even though that it's a gray market in Japan, there are more structural safety nets that make things safer for Rose and for Kabi. One of them being this call. There's someone who is being attentive to Rose's labor. She gets a call that says, "Hey, time is up." So someone is thinking of her. Someone is there to facilitate both the intake and the outtake of this service. And I like that. It really just shows that here in the United States, because of some backwards bullshit, there's just this lack of safety for both the sex worker and the person, paying for those services. And I wish there was more safety nets and I wish there was more a legal structure around this for the people that want to do that kind of work.
Through this story and through the phone call that notified her that like her time was up, or that, oh, it's time to get in the bath because that's how much time you have left. There is this like level of safety that you don't often see in like stories about sex workers in the U.S. And it kind of does show the imbalance in labor, and shows why we need to support sex workers when they fight for better labor conditions.
Like, we could think of like a specific person here. Sean Baker, who directed Honora in Tangerine, who loves to use sex work as a figure in his movies, he could never make something this sweet. He could never make something this caring or loving or even just boring, honestly. Like, sometimes sex work is boring. I know many sex workers who just get paid to travel somewhere and hear some guy talk for an hour or two.
Yeah, I feel like I like Sean Baker's movies, but yeah, I mean, they're very focused like on the spectacle, while this manga is very focused on kind of like something much more, I would say, like lived in, like it's interesting because I feel when I got to the end of the book and it was like this book is completely fictional. If it has any similarities to any real people, it's just a coincidence. And I'm like, the book literally says that, like, this is based on the like the author's like life. So I almost feel like that has become like something that doesn't even mean anything anymore, that you just have to write for legal reasons. But yeah, I feel like definitely if you compare this to Sean Baker's work, that is gonna that's more focused on the fireworks than focused on like the actual reality.
I think something that I am having like a very big disconnect is because the girl I was friends with wasn't like an escort. She was like straight up like a sex worker. And 90% of her experiences with men, and this is with men versus like a woman with a woman, were violent. So when I think of sex work, I always think a woman is going to be in danger. So it's really hard for me. It was really hard for me to like connect to that sweet thing because I was just like, is this real? Is this real life? Does this represent real life? And in my brain, for being so, like, I think I'm just so senile and cynical when it comes to it, I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think this is like a very rare, she got a good experience. I don't know if it would be replicated. So it's one of those things where I like that we're talking about it, and I like that it's causing or creating a conversation, because then we can talk about both sides, about how it is a way for women to have jobs and stuff, but it's also, it can be dangerous. It can be something that women are risking their lives just to be able to survive.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. And that's why there needs to be like a structure of safety and regulation and standards and practices and all of that other boring
Legalize
stuff.
it.
Yes.
Please.
Legalize it. Let me ask you this. In the way that this manga uses sex work, can it be replicated in the decade of loneliness? It's 2020.
That's a tough question to answer. In my brain, it's almost like, I don't think so. Because if there was, I think there wouldn't be no like male loneliness epidemic. And it's like, people want authentic relationships. And I think older men paying for it, they're fine. They're just like, I just need someone to talk to. But when it comes to, I want to say people our age, they're less likely to see it as like a real relationship, and it's like very transactional. Like, that is who I go to for X, Y, and Z. And it also, I'm like, are humans innocent enough to just want to have a conversation with a sex worker?
Yeah, and I feel like it was telling that even though, like, her writing making this comic about her experience with a sex worker, and then that becoming really popular and connecting with people. It wasn't like she suddenly was able to connect with other people. She had to go back to a sex worker to like have another experience, and that experience, while maybe a bit better, it still was like didn't give her what she wanted. So yeah, I feel like it's not. I don't think this can be like seen as like, oh, this is the solution to loneliness. And I feel like oftentimes, especially the media treats this male loneliness thing as like, well, what do women need to do to solve the male loneliness epidemic? When it's like, hey, it's not our
Okay.
fault.
Literally.
So I never mentioned male loneliness epidemic. But I do believe we live in a time where people feel very lonely across genders, across different backgrounds as well. I would say the only thing that is separating the loneliness that exists in 2020s is class. There are class issues in this manga. Kabi scrapes around for money to be able to go see Rose, to the point that Kabi asks her mom for $100 to be able to cover this, which is very funny. I mean, if you're gonna ask for money, ask for a lot. And I think we live in a time so puritanical, so absolutely broken because of the right wing, that I can't help but imagine what a world where you can pay for someone's attention like this, what it can lead to. There are of course class dynamics there. Not everybody can afford a service, any kind of service. There are places around the United States that are trying to find solutions, not systemic solutions, but solutions around this sense of loneliness. There is this spot in Portland that you can pay someone to cuddle with them for a set amount of time. And that, to me, is not a solution to loneliness that is felt in 2020. It is interesting, though, that there are money-making opportunities that people are finding around loneliness. So I mean, of course, I'm not asking for the solution of loneliness. What I am wondering, though, is how the intersection of loneliness and being able to pay for a service can lead to a transformation of what is happening right now.
So I want to say that, like, before we get into like what it can lead to, we need to start with why it's happening, why the loneliness is happening, and it's very much not just class, but racism and late stage capitalism. And something I think we didn't talk about was it's not only something like it's not just class, it's also race. In the manga, she never mentioned if this was a white woman, an Asian woman, and if she did, I didn't remember. But there's always a little bit of a biases when it comes to sex work. If a white person wants a Latina or a black woman, are they going to be kind? Is this a fetish? Or did she only perceive this person as kind because, maybe they were white? And if they were a black woman, would they have perceived it differently? The class thing, I related a little bit there, not because of like a sex worker, but I was like, oh, when I want to buy like weed, I have asked my parents for like a 20. So I was like, I get you, girl. But as far as when now like talking about what it can lead to, I feel like I can definitely see people being more open to sex work if we stop having such I don't know what the word is, but like around sex, us as a country is very puritanical. Like we don't talk about it. We don't have sex ed. They, take things out of certain movies. TV shows are now cutting things out. So it's like, I feel like as a country we need to progress and learn that it's a human thing. It's neutral. You do it, your mom does it, your grandma does it. It's human. And once we get that, I guess, stereotype away and move away from it, it becomes so much more freeing. And I think it's seen something that like, oh yeah, people have sex. Go buy it. I pay for Netflix. You go pay for sex. Like, do what you can with your own money.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you brought in that perspective of like it isn't just class, it's race as well. Because I think that, especially like AP and I have been like in a lot of socialist spaces where they're like, oh, it's just class. You just got to read Marx and that's it. But I think it is important to look at like that intersectional view, especially in America, where oftentimes like the impact on Black and Brown people is a lot higher. And yeah, I think because this was written in Japan, like we can't exactly draw one-to-ones, but at the same time, I think like when we think about loneliness, there's a reason why both of our brains went to the male loneliness epidemic in America, because that's like what the media loves to talk about right now, especially especially under Trump too, because they're like, well, how did we get here? Oh, it's because male loneliness, and because of that, we need to find a solution for that, not for the white supremacy that's like systemic in America. So yeah, I think for me, it's hard to like think about like even going beyond like male loneliness and going into loneliness in its entirety. It's hard to be like, all right, we need to find a solution, and maybe like some sort like a service could help with that, because it feels like there's like root issues that need to be tackled first.
There's absolutely systemic issues that need to be tackled and resolved. It's just
something. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Something I wanted to add is also the lack of third spaces. Because I miss going to the mall, seeing so many people, seeing my friends. Those don't or like back in elementary school, a skate park, a regular park. We used to hang out at the library all the time. Or even thinking in college, we used to study together. You make friends. You're on your little socialist campus world, because college is a little socialist sometimes. And I'm like that. I remember that was when I had the most community. Because I just had everywhere I went, there was a different group of people that I related to. Those don't exist once you leave college, or even if you make it to college.
100%. 100%.
And that connects with the comic book too, because she had friends in high school, and then that's kind of like what she's trying to get back to. And like it seemed like she just struggled with college and then she dropped out, and so that's kind of why like high school is like what she is trying to connect back to. But I think it's a similar thing where she doesn't have those third spaces anymore. She's just living with her parents the entire time, and like her entire brain is just focused on like, how do I make my parents happy? So yeah, bring back third spaces for sure.
Us as like children of immigrants, that is also something that we experience, where it's like I'm not sure if your parents are first gen or immigrants. I'm just like they came here for like me, so I'm like I have to like make them proud, and it's such a not weird, but it's a very unique type of pressure to have.
It's also a pressure that Kavi feels. Like it's a pressure that she has to shed. She thinks too much about her family structure to the point that she is arrested in it. And look, like I'm not gonna get into every possible connection between this comic book and the United States in 2026, but I would say that there's a lot of familial issues that the mainstream America is dealing with right now and is uninterested in finding a solution. The solution being feminism, socialism, and of course a little bit of freakiness. But because we do live in this puritanical moment, this right-wing moment, those things are not... A lot of people in this country don't allow themselves to imagine something different. let alone try something different.
Yeah. And that's why we need communism worldwide. Communism in space. Although, I guess at that point, yeah. I mean, if the aliens want to bring communism to us, that'll be good. We can't bring communism to the aliens because we'll fuck it up somehow.
Yeah, glip glop marks out there.
This is my friend Carl, Carl Marks, Marks.
One of the things that I definitely want to make sure that like I mention here is something that Kabi says, that sex is about communication. And when I saw that, I literally started clapping. I was like, yes, yes, girly pop, yes, because I'm like, yeah, I I relate a lot to Rose, the sex worker, because I have been in situations where I have more experience than somebody I'm dancing with, and I oh, there's a moment where I have to switch on the communications degree and be like, hey, you could just tell me what you like or what you don't like or what you want to do here or don't want to do here, because whatever it is, it's okay with me, because I am not doing this out of a heteronormative patriarchal structure. I'm doing it out of a queer culture, a one that says we don't, Andrea Dorkin may wrote wrote Intercourse in the 90s about this, about what it means to have a sexual relationship with somebody else in a heterosexual context. And she said something that is been repeated in the 2000s, in the 2010s, and now in the 2020s, which is heteronormative people do not feel like they have had intercourse unless that there is penetrative sex. And that, to me, I don't think the writer of this manga has ever read Andrea Dorkin. I don't think so. But it is interesting how she was walking around with this heteronormative thought. And the comic book like represents that when they have this conversation about the hymen. And I just like how she also independently, like Andrea Dorkin says, you can do some other shit. You don't have to do the thing that people say you have to do. And I like that. That is exactly what queerness is about. It is somehow you independently arrive to a non-heteronormative structure of something like, yes, sex, but of course, every other thing in life.
Yeah, I think it definitely connected with me. I think being trans, I think like a lot of like trans sex looks a lot different than heteronormative cis sex, because you're like, well, I can't even do what you guys are doing, so we're just gonna do whatever the fuck we wanted to do, and we're gonna call it sex. So
I
yeah,
think that's the beauty of it, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, just, it is whatever it is with someone who you just want to share either, a great time with, or they just are really hot and you want to touch a little. Whatever it is. As long as it's consensual, do what you got to do, however you want to do, as freaky as you want to do.
Yeah, and we're pro freaky on Double.
Yeah, freaky parentheses positive.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely enjoyed reading this, and I watched like some anime, but I haven't watched manga. I haven't read manga in a while, so I was happy for the opportunity to do that. And I'm glad that like we're able to kind of find queer narratives in like multiple different types of medium and draw connections between each other. So yeah, I'm excited for the next queer manga that I read.
Yeah, low-key, when I got the email that it was a manga, I was like, oh, I'm gonna read a manga. And then I read it and I was like, no, send me another one. That was good. Like, it opened up like a whole new media for me, and I'm just like, okay, I get to explore more now. And I'm like, I get to look into like yaoi and yuri now. Okay.
The bisexual jumps out. All right, so Karen, thank you so much for being here. We have one final part of this show where we talk about what's bringing us hope and what is bringing us some positive emotion. So, Karen, what is giving you some positive thoughts these days?
Oh, my puppy. If she were here, I would pull her up. Actually, she's sleeping. She's sleeping on my pillow. She looks like a little bug. Oh, I love her.
Listener, I wish you could see this puppy. It's a very cute puppy. Maybe you'll have to send a picture to us and we'll include it in the Instagram
Will.
post.
Oh my god, yes.
It's very cute. Very similarly, what's bringing me a hope is as of last week,
Oh,
I have birthed a corn because the first corn that I planted has germinated and it is sprouting up. I'm excited to see this corn grow mighty and big. This is my second year growing corn, and ooh wee, I can't wait to chomp it down too.
You know, I feel like it's only right after you shared your dog for me to share my cat. So I'm gonna. My
yes.
cat is also sleeping, so let me try to get her in frame.
Oh my god, yes. Oh my gosh, she's so pretty. Or is it a boy?
She, yeah.
She.
Usually she's when we record, she's the third mic, and AP is allergic to cats. So,
SMH.
but yeah, Nomi, I'm taking her to the vet. Actually, in 2 days. Hopefully, everything is all good.
The vet
Um,
always freaks me out. I'm like, oh god.
yeah. But yeah, she's giving me hope. You know, even when I'm sick, she cuddles with me, so that makes me happy.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Nomi is venom to me because I'm allergic. But I like her. I like my niece. Karen, where can the good people of Dove Weather find you?
They can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Karen, or it's not Karen. Online, I go by Carne Asada. It's because Karen, someone misspelled it once and switched the N and the E. So I went from Karen to Carne, but it's with a K. So we have to say it like a very American person because it's not with a C. The C is the correct carne asada. K is with the carne. So you can find me on TikTok at carne asada with 2 A's at the end, and on Instagram at Karen or carne x asada.
Which are linked below. Listener, you have no excuse. We're trying to develop a constellation of Dove Weather people, and so you have no choice. You gotta go follow her.
Yeah, if you don't follow her, you're canceled.
If you don't follow me, like my videos, you're anti-lesbian, and how dare you on the day we talk about lesbians? That's a shame. Shame on you.
You can find us on every podcast platform and Instagram and YouTube and Bluesky at Dove Weather.
Ooh, thank you so much for listening. Bye.
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 All right, Karen, just hold up.